Hey, it's Tuesday. Welcome into the best damn pod in the land. I am your co-host, Chad Stryker. With me, as always, Dan Divjak. Dan, smash the like and subscribe button. Did I do that right?
You did. Smash it.
Smash it. All right. I'm going to start off our show real quickly with something that happened the other day. Juck, our buddy, our friend, our good buddy in the pod world, let the cat out of the bag already that we're doing a pod mashup, a live pod mashup with him. That's coming up in a couple weeks. So there'll be some graphics and some information and all that stuff. And I'm actually trying to work out, even Dan would like to have people call in. So I'll be doing a lot of moderating that day. And Dan and Juck, they're the geniuses anyway when it comes to the football beat. So I'll be having them answer a lot of the questions and I'll chime in when I can. But yeah, so Juck mentioned we'll be doing that on his live pod last week. So yeah, looking forward to that, buddy. We appreciate you. We're glad we get to hang out with you again. But yep, coming up, man.
We should figure out a way to all get together and maybe do it outdoors. And then that way we can see all the paparazzi that are following Juck around at this point in his career.
I know. Well, what if we did it at like one of his restaurants?
Yeah,
just like Roosters.
I think that I think Juck wants separation of church and state.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. I got it. Yeah. I mean, we could be like the podcast daily or whatever and do it at Roosters in the corner, and we'll invite former players. I have a friend,
and then we can bring on a recruit and have them completely trash that restaurant.
Yeah.
During an interview.
Yeah. Let's do that. It'll be fun. So, talking actual Buckeye football today. So we begin with a kind of a fun little nugget. As of July 1st, I guess it's not just football, but it kind of is. The Ross Bjork era begins at Ohio State. I'm excited about Ross Bjork because he literally said football is king. So now we have an AD that at least admits it in public. We know football is the engine that makes everything go. So Dan, we've talked about Bjork before, but what do you expect from him? So, you and I are both been in and around business a long time. When people take over, generally they have like a first 100-day plan. What do you expect from Bjork in his first 100 days? Are we going to get a brand new state-of-the-art football facility?
At the very least. Yeah. I actually was under the impression that Gene Smith was going to roll something out in May, and I can't help but to think that he maybe put his ego aside and thought it would be best for Ross to roll that out as one of his first, acts of business. Yeah, no, I mean, we have to. It's, I think that our facility rates in the top 10 when you talk to recruits and stuff like that, but it's just, there's an arms race right now. It's kind of like phase 2 of the arms race with facilities. And when you look at what Oregon's doing with their practice facility and, what they already had.
Yep.
It's where it needs to go. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not close to a $1 billion project announced.
That'd be interesting. Yeah. I mean, the lockers that they did were fantastic.
They were cool. But they could have been so much better. As cool as they were.
They're better than USC's.
That's where OJ's got his machete buried. Yeah. When you look at the locker rooms of some of the other ones, we're still a notch below. As cool as they were, and as much of an upgrade as they were, I think it's a nice appetizer for what they could be.
So I'm in line with you. I think there's going to be a massive upgrade and expansion of the WAC, is what I think is going to happen, at least initially, and then we'll see what happens after that. I wouldn't be surprised either if there's some sort of formal plan to do some really nice elite upgrades to the Horseshoe. So it wouldn't shock me.
Listen, I think the Horseshoe is a cathedral
of
college football, but there's a lot that needs to be improved. I mean, it starts with the ceiling tiles that were exposed during the spring game on Fox, nationally. When you look at like what Texas has for their scoreboard. The facilities. I mean, I went to my first game at the Shoe this last year. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that. I've seen our boys play all over the place, but because I lived out west for most of my life, and then started a family, I never got to the Shoe. I was shocked at like the bathrooms and everything else like that. So,
well, you did sit in the Huntington Club with us at the spring game, so those bathrooms aren't too bad, man.
That was a different experience.
Yeah, I'll just say for those of you who don't know I have a bougie side to me, and so I watch games in the Huntington Club. I don't sit on the bleachers.
When we came up for the Penn State game, I sat with all the plebes and the common folk on the other side, and yeah, that was interesting. So
yeah, I'll just. Yeah, I'll admit it publicly. You know, that there are certain things I don't fade on, and my dad and I started sitting there, I think in 2016, and I haven't gone back.
Yeah.
So I laugh about it because my wife picks on me about, she's like, you if you weren't so bougie about your ticket prices, you could go to every home game. I'm like, I'm aware. I've done it. I've gone to every home game before with my dad. So
Avery went to the Zach Bryan concert here in Nashville on Saturday, and she went with one of her friends whose father works for Dell, and he had club level seats. So it was a very similar situation. They could walk up and be in that air conditioned concourse and nicer, clean bathrooms and all that.
Yeah, there's just a difference. I mean, yeah. I like it, but you know, we'll leave it at that. So switching gears, I'm excited about Bjork. Let me tie this in a nice, neat little bow. I'm excited about Bjork. I'm excited that he loves football. I do think there's probably going to be a shift in fund allocations, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to go into it because I don't have any concrete evidence of that yet, but I expect it. In the recruiting world, so guys, please know that, firstly, if you've seen my tweet, or if you haven't, my tweet says, reminder for all of you, if you follow recruiting and it causes you anger, angst, stress, or feeling like you want to rage tweet at a 16, 17, or 18-year-old kid deciding where they want to attend college, maybe it'll be best for your own mental health not to follow recruiting. I had somebody that took exception to that. Now, the person has like 5 followers or something, so whatever, there's always those people. But I wasn't directing this or bashing Ohio State fans or a fan base. It's in general. Guys, recruiting is tough. These are kids making up their mind about where they want to go to college for the next 4 or 5 years, or 3, depending on how talented they are. But like, I mean, gosh, dude, like I remember, and I'm sure you remember, Dan, like I went and saw a bunch of colleges, and I had no idea, and I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I didn't have it. I mean, gosh, my major ended up being something I didn't even like. I just wanted to be a history teacher and coach football when I was, you know, like I'm nowhere near either of those things. 4 years, 4.5 years, you know, I had an extra half a junior year, like some of us. So, and, you know, so look, man, like, I don't know about you, but I did tag our podcast. I tagged you, just for awareness, because there have been some really uncool things, and I'm not going to direct a tweet at somebody, because if you've been around me for any length of time, and you know this, Dan, I have some Twitter guidelines I follow, and I just don't do that. Like, I don't believe in that. Like, if you tweet at me, I might respond to you, maybe, depending on my mood, but I don't argue with strangers on the internet. So I don't know. Dan, am I off base there?
I argue with strangers on the internet. It's something that I am thinking about seeking therapy for. But
I'll therapize you.
No, man, you're 100% on track. As a matter of fact, I had my same type of public service announcement, and I had one guy reply, "Hey, you know, these kids want the, you know, all this NIL money, but they don't want to, you know, get what comes with it." you know what? Then stop hiding behind your avatar and a fake name. Put your face, put your name on there, and say it then.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna puff your chest out and be a keyboard warrior,
Yeah.
have some balls and put your face and name behind it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know why it just bothered me. I'm like, dude, like, I'm not bashing Ohio State fans. It's everybody. There were so many people upset about Dorian Brew. There's people in a tailspin about Riley Pettyjohn because, and I never in a million years thought we'd even be able to pull him. Like, go back a month, you and I were like, nah, no, no. And now everybody's like, oh my gosh, we might not get somebody we want. Okay, that happens. It just does. They're kids.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good segue. I think we're talking about Brew next, right?
Actually, I popped something else in there. I will talk about Brew in just a second. So, on a positive recruiting note, Larry Johnson did his best swim move, or maybe I'm going to call it a bull rush, and shoves Sharon Moore in a locker and takes his top defensive line target in Maxwell Roy. Dan, Maxwell Roy. I originally had a question mark next to him. I don't anymore.
No,
thoughts on
beautiful.
this guy?
Absolutely beautiful. Great pickup for us. You know, there's a lot of rumors out there that he's had like 3 ACL surgeries. He's tore his ACL once. It was most recent during wrestling season. He's already almost fully recovered, apparently. Zero concerns about that. I'm sure the staff checked that out quite a bit. But you know, he had a nice interview with Berm on Bermanology.
I liked it.
A commitment interview, and you know, he mentioned that he knew at the Ohio State OV that he was coming here, and he still went to the Michigan OV, and then that's when all those crystal balls came in for him to go there. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, he was their top priority on the defensive line, and stuffed him in a locker.
Yeah, bull rushed him. Bull rushed him. Yeah,
you know what I found interesting regarding stuffing people in a locker? Have you noticed that Michigan is starting to celebrate other teams' recruiting wins against us?
Yes.
You know, like they're bragging
Oregon
about
specifically
Oregon stuffing us in a locker, or so and so stuffing us in a locker. None of them were, are about them stuffing us in a locker. They're having to live vicariously through other teams when it comes to recruiting.
Tough for a team coming off a alleged national championship. So the other thing I like best about this is, so Larry Johnson takes their top defensive line recruit. Brian Hartline takes Quincy Porter, their top wide receiver target.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that for the losers up north. And I'm glad Maxwell Roy's in the class. Pairing him with Trajan Odom's great. I think nice looking pair of defensive tackles, interior guys. Two different types of kids, but I like it a lot. I like them together. And then, the sad news, at least as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know where you were. I think I remember you saying we both thought Dorian Brew would end up in this class. I think we were concerned when he didn't end up committing in January, but Dorian Brew, I don't know what to make of it. I don't. I mean, he goes to Oregon, by the way. He went to Oregon.
Here's what I know. I know that on January 24th, Dorian Brew was prepared to commit to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
The edit was made. The commit graphic was made. He delayed it. Obviously raises a red flag. Went through the process. And I feel very, very confident that I want to say, when did he announce? Saturday or Friday?
I'm pretty sure it was Saturday.
Yeah, whatever day he announced, the evening before at 6 p.m., he was slated to announce Ohio State. I mean, he told the coaching staff that he was committing at 6 p.m. on that evening. And then that came and went, and everybody obviously started to get really, really concerned and paranoid. And the next thing we know, the following day, we saw the graphic for Oregon. Here's what I think this is. Number one, Dorian Brew has been gone from Ohio for a couple years, but he considers himself a Ohio kid. I'm not going to try to spin it that he's not an Ohio kid. Okay?
Sure.
He has been gone for a year, and it will be 2 years by the time, it's time for him to enroll. And yes, his mother is in the Ohio State Track and Field Hall of Fame. So that makes him a legacy.
Sure.
Not going to try to spin any of that. At the end of the day, we have the number 1 and number 2 rated cornerback committed. We had Aaron Scott and Bryce West, top 5 or 10 cornerbacks last year.
Yep.
Next year, you've got Rock Hill, top 15 national, number 1 cornerback, I think, but top 15 national overall. We got Victor Singleton, that's probably an Ohio State lean.
Yeah.
I mean, Rock Hill's he's going to come to Ohio State. So Dorian Brew's played cornerback for 1 year. He's uber talented. He is a 5-star elite talent. He's still raw at corner, and because of that, he's coming in with the first and second rated corner in the entire class who are not raw and incredibly elite, ultra elite, uber elite. And, they were pitching to him that they wanted him to play safety. He's 6'2", he's 6'2", 190.
Yep.
Going into his senior year in high school. And, I don't think he really was up for that. I think Oregon did a really, really good job selling him on being their number 1 corner in the class. Now, they also just had Brandon Finney commit. So I don't know if he's ahead or behind Brew, maybe right behind Brew.
I think he's behind Brew, but very close.
But having said all of that, this is not even close to being over.
Okay.
I mean, this is something where I've got a better example of this, but it is KJ Bolden-esque in the sense that, he grew up a Georgia fan. He was 45 minutes from Georgia's campus, committed to Florida State, and then on signing day, he flipped to UGA. I think Trey McNutt could potentially be a better example of that because he's actually at home still. He's still in Ohio. But it's not over. It's not over.
Yeah. My intel, for what it's worth, I know what you know about the Friday situation with him committing. But there seems to be a prevalent thought that he didn't really want to move to safety because, of the way that corners get drafted versus safeties get drafted in the NFL. I mean, thinking 3 or 4 years down the line. Now, nobody in his camp said that. No one is like, there's nobody at Ohio State has said that, but I can't help but think that there's some sort of inference on that. Like, yeah, I'm a corner, and I don't really want to move to safety. And then we have 2 really good corners, and we have 2 top 10 corners from the year before. And then that's saying that Jermaine Matthews doesn't come back. And, like there's that whole thing there. And so all that to say is our DB room's going to be great. They're elite. We're fine. I don't think it's over. But I'm not sure he flips back to Ohio State, but my text to you and Chuck literally just said it's a long day, a long time till December and National Signing Day. So,
and if you look at a lot of the playoff predictions coming out right now, a lot of them have us beating Oregon 3 times next year, which would be unbelievable.
Yeah,
they've got us with the number 1 or number 2 seed, which means we went undefeated, which means that and they have Oregon at 5, which means that their only loss was to us and probably to us again in the Big Ten championship, right? Yep. And then they've got us meeting in the semis and winning. So that would be insane. I don't know how I feel
3
about
times
that.
In 1 year. That's a lot.
What's ironic is that the other side of the semi bracket is Georgia and Texas, and they basically got the same thing there. It's Georgia beating Texas in the regular season, beating them again in the SEC championship, and then beating them in the playoffs. I mean, that
lack of creativity.
Yeah, but I mean that it could shake out that way.
It could. So Brew was a bummer. Roy was great. So
let's not forget about Odom.
Yeah, and Trajan Odom, like beautiful, love it. Trenches, give it to me. So,
can we talk about June really quick? I mean,
yeah,
we had a ridiculous June. We had 9 commits.
Man. Yeah.
Okay, in those 9 commits, that includes Fahim Delane, Quincy Porter, Trajan Odom, Maxwell Roy, I don't know. Was Bo Jackson in June?
I think so.
Jake Cook,
Isaiah West.
Isaiah West. I mean,
Yeah.
we freaking killed it
Yeah.
in June. So
Yeah. I mean, are those 9 commits from 1 month more than Michigan has for the whole year?
no, they're up to 13 or 15
Are
or
they up?
something
Are
like
they
that
up?
now.
Okay.
Yeah,
At one point they were under 10. They were like at 7. So
yeah, and they've snuck into the top 15 nationally.
oh, must be a lot of 3 stars. Anyway, there's my shot for the day. I was upset about Brew, and I literally wrote this in our notes just for fun. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. So, Justin Hill committing tomorrow. How are you feeling?
Lock.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. A true unicorn. Defensive side of the ball. A true. If you go back and look at Jim Knowles' Oklahoma State defense with the jack position, like a true like jack position person. Like he's not a linebacker, he's not a defensive end. He is a unicorn. A la Sonny Styles kind of, but for at the size of a linebacker. So Dan, I know you were in on him early and we wanted him in the class. He especially after he airlifted that Notre Dame commit in one of the 7-on-7s, the linemen. So I think that the biggest shift for him came when Larry Johnson and that whole contingent traveled down to Cincinnati to see him. And I think he said as much. So is that why you're so confident?
Yeah, and just things I'm hearing, like I hear that he works with a particular coach, and all he talks about is Ohio State, and
Okay.
the other commits, feel really really good about him.
Okay.
He's a Winton Woods kid.
Yep.
Jermaine Matthews put out that graphic recently with himself, Mayan Williams, I believe.
Yeah, Mayan Williams. Yep.
And Justin front and center, in
Perfect.
an Ohio State uniform. So yeah, I mean, I would be as shocked as I was that we lost Dorian. I would be flabbergasted if Justin's not committing to us tomorrow.
Okay. And Andrew Stargell commits tomorrow too, as well, right?
I believe so. Yeah. And from what I hear, he thinks he's still good with Ohio State, and we need more linemen.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, even if we get David Sanders and Javon McFadden, we still need a 5th lineman in the class.
Yeah. I'm putting him in as of today, as of when we're talking. So, and then the other one that I mentioned earlier that everybody was getting all worked up about when you and I were talking offline, Riley Pettyjohn. So listen, guys, I didn't think there was any shot at us getting Pettyjohn. Like we recently, like it's only been within the last month that there's been enough movement there. And now, and take it for what it's worth, people are posting things from Texas insiders, and they could be just trying to throw people off the scent. It is Texas, folks. They wanted him, and then they switched to Madden Farama when they started to trail. So where are you thinking? What are you thinking, Dan? Where are you at on this with
I really, really,
Pettyjohn?
really like our chances.
Okay.
His mom tweeted out yesterday about the linebacker coach at USC and referred to him as the closer, and everybody lost their collective minds. And that's where some of the tweets you were talking about earlier, originated from. And
when people yell at me, yeah.
I mean, people like tweeting at the mom and then saying, if your son's a serious player and you're a good parent, you'll make sure he goes to Ohio State. It's like, dude, like lose your phone.
Yeah.
Right. But he comes from a really, really good family. I think it's a similar situation as the Sanchez's. Mom and dad are at home. They're both, really, really smart. His dad was a All-American at Syracuse, played a little bit of, I don't know, UFL, AFL ball type stuff.
Yep.
Really sharp people, really involved in his life. And I just can't, if it's truly between us and USC, then this is the one time that I would say it was all about the money. if he goes there.
Okay.
Now, the assumption is that USC's had so many decommitments on the defensive side of the ball right now that they're going to overpay for somebody like Riley Pettyjohn. I just don't think it works that way. Like the same thing with people, like when we lost Dorian, people are like, okay, well, that means more money for David Sanders. No, it doesn't.
That's not how that works.
Money's not an issue for us. We're not going to go and put somebody else's bucket, bag in somebody else's bucket. The price is the price for a position, right?
Yeah.
And we don't need to reallocate money in order to have enough for somebody like a David Sanders. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think there's a misunderstanding of how things are going with NIL, and maybe one day you and I can do a understanding of or a breakdown to help people of like the way that things are going. But at a really high level, if you think about the NFL, there is a specific price range for a left tackle. There's a specific price range for a top 10 corner. There's a specific price range now in a devalued position at running back. So if you parlay that and those contracts and you just apply that to NIL, that's kind of how things are working right now. And I know that like there's some people that are going to hate that analogy like really bad, but that's kind of what's happening, unfortunately. There's the price is the price. And for a day one left tackle starter, the price is the price, coming out of high school, going into college. So hopefully I did that justice, Dan.
Yeah. But I do know there's other commitments in that room, other commits in that room and on that side of the ball that actually feel really good about us getting Pettyjohn. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
all right.
That's not one that I'm going to call my shot on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. So Dan, you're a little more tapped in than I am on some of this. Is there anybody else that you are kind of sort of paying attention to over the next week or two? Or do you think the sea's calm and the storm, like the tidal wave of commits is kind of slowing? And, so we have the Sanders commit later. We have Trey McNutt probably in the season.
He just got crystal ball to Oregon, which I still find incredibly interesting. Like, I get Aaron Scott vibes from Trey.
Okay.
Meaning
pulling the Ohio State jersey out of the Michigan bag.
I think he's enjoying the process and he's doing his due diligence.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I mean, there's things that we won't talk to on here about the McNutt situation that are
impact
assumed to be a factor. I just have a weird feeling he's going to end up at Ohio State.
Okay.
More so than Dorian Brew.
Yeah.
I can see him committing somewhere else and being that KJ Bolden of this class.
Okay.
That's a perfect KJ Bolden example. Grew up with a room plastered in Ohio State gear, Ohio State fan, Ohio State dream school. Maybe commit somewhere else, but at the end of the day, he ends up flipping.
Yeah. I can tell you one I'm for sure watching. Another person is Jakeem Stewart, Big Thanos. Kind of paying attention to that. Like crazy, wild scenario, with him reclassifying to 2025. Paperwork's in, as we understand it. And so Dan, I mean, we're in it. We're in it.
Yeah, I don't know if he's actually submitted his paperwork to reclassify, but I've been told that he's done the work required to, meaning the accelerated course load.
Okay. And then you corrected me on something, so I think maybe we should make sure people know this. At this time, Chris Henry is not reclassifying, correct?
Correct. There's murmurs out there about it. I personally don't think he's got the grades.
Okay.
To do it, and that's one of the reasons he went out to a school like Mater Dei.
Mater football.
But would that be something?
Yeah.
If the number 1 and 2 rated players from 2026 reclassify and both come to Ohio State.
How fun would that be?
I do think the Jakeem Stewart thing's real. I
do
think
too.
we have a legitimate shot with him.
Agreed.
I think his affinity for Larry Johnson, as well as his relationship with Alan Clark, is huge. The other name out there that I would not be surprised if we saw a flip, and then I've got one other dark horse for you, sort of. I'm on Malik Autry watch, man.
Okay.
I mean, that kid,
wow.
he is either trolling us, like intentionally trolling us, or he's legitimately torn.
Okay.
I mean, he removed Auburn commit from his profiles. He's got nothing but Ohio State stuff on his Instagram. He just followed the tattoo guy in Columbus that does all the players.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what's that guy's name?
Tattoo. His Instagram is TATT 2, the number 2, T.
Yeah.
And so he followed him. I mean, I am expecting him to flip and then it being a fight to the end to keep him.
Okay.
And then there's one, I started to hear rumors this morning, or murmurs, about there being a Texas-based wide receiver. That to me, that's two people. That's Dalen McCutcheon or it's Dorian Moore.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tease that was shared with me. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. I called my shot already, so we'll just roll with it. I have felt I felt for a while that Dorian Moore will be in this class. I
think we get a couple of these trench guys, these big timers in the fold, and they'll pivot to saying, okay, we've done what we needed to do in the trenches. Now let's go get greedy.
Yeah. I agree with you.
When it comes to NIL.
Yeah, I agree with you. If we did not have Brian Hartline as our recruiter, and we didn't hear the things that we've heard along the way about certain wide receivers being maybe at the top of everybody else's board, but not our board. And, okay. But I just feel like, I think Brian Hartline views Dorian Moore as his Jackson Smith and Jigba of this class. And I would not be shocked if he ended up. And I'm just saying, like,
what's funny?
I'm staying on it.
The player comparison that McCutcheon gets is
JSN.
Often JSN.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't surprise me.
When you watch him, he looks like him a lot out there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, McCutcheon is a little thicker. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. I think I was watching we should do a breakdown of it sometime, but they were comparing Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and JSN. And like they talked about Brian Hartline's type of wide receivers, and all three of them are different, but we have all three again in this. Like if you look at each of the years, you have those types, those body types, and that's why I brought the JSN comparison. But McCutcheon makes sense too. I would take McCutcheon.
Our wide receiver room is starting to be alien-like when it comes to body types. I mean, Carnell's very, very mature. Brandon's a thick kid. And then you got JJ, who's just
otherworldly.
The kid's 18.
Yeah, I know. I feel like this is one of those things where we're going to find out like he's actually 21 or something, and he moved here from the Dominican Republic. I'm kidding. It, like the Little League World Series a few years ago where there was he was actually 14 and he was pitching to 10-year-olds or whatever. But yeah. All right. So that was all a joke, guys. Don't text or don't tweet me or comment on it. I was joking. He's 18. So I don't know if you caught this, but there was an article recently and some scuttle on Twitter about, and maybe even on some podcasts, about the quarterback competition. And Big Willie big Will Howard's summer work he's putting in. I think this is going on with all the quarterbacks, but they're all putting in work this summer. But Dan, you know, I don't know. I sent you that clip, and I'm not going to say where it came from, but it was almost like people are still hedging their bets that it's going to be Will Howard and not Devin Brown. And I'm glad that Will Howard's putting in some special summer work with some elite quarterback coaching. But he, I mean, I can't say out loud what I want to say, but like, I'm sure a lot of quarterbacks around the country are doing that.
Yeah, the ones that are serious about their craft.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the room, here's what I've been told about Will's summer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay on the positive side of things because I'm sick and tired of being called a Will hater because I'm
Why do you hate Will so much?
I listen. It's very well known that I'm a fan of Devin Brown's potential.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The key there is potential. I'm not sitting here saying that Devin should be given the job because he's better.
Yep.
I can't say that. Nobody can say that. Right? Do we look at his high school film to tap into that potential? Yes. That's what you do with recruits and guys that have never been on the field before is you look at their film to see what they can possibly bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does Devin need to prove himself? Does he need to prove that he can stay healthy? Yes. Does he need to prove that he can get into the game and stay settled and calm and not, hop skip his first pass or two on quick screens? That's all on film. You can't say that's not a concern.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sitting here with rose-colored glasses. Does he need to stay healthy? Yeah. Do I think last year was a fluke? Yeah. Okay. When it comes to Will, I'm not like, you look at his game film, you look at his statistics, and you realize that he's been inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
It's why he was only a 4th or 5th round, projected draft pick at 6'5", 240 with an above average arm. Usually those guys are projected after 4 years in college and winning a conference championship to be drafted much higher.
Right.
But it is what it is. He's been inconsistent. Now people want to blame his surrounding cast. People want to blame changes in offensive coordinators. People want to blame this. People want to blame that. It is what it is. The guy's been in college for 4 years, and his statistics suggest that he's been uneven.
Mm-hmm.
I think his highs have been really, really high, and I think he's had some really, really lows, some real lows. If Will Howard wins the job, he will have 100% of my support. Whoever wins that quarterback job is going to have my support because I am a Buckeye fan first, and I want to win a freaking national championship.
Yep.
So
I put that in our notes
for that person, right?
Yep.
If whoever starts the season doesn't finish it, hopefully that doesn't mean something too terribly wrong happened. Maybe an injury, and the next guy picks up and finishes the job. But if that starter, goes and lays an egg in Oregon, whether it be Will or Devin, that's not good. I don't want to see that. So with that being said, I mean, I've been told that Will, stayed back after spring and worked with Ryan one-on-one on his mechanics, which is interesting because I don't think Ryan Day is a technician or a tactician or whatever. I don't think mechanics is Ryan Day's strong suit when it comes to developing quarterbacks. I think it's talking about defense, talking about coverages, talking about reads and things like that. That's where I think Ryan thrives as a quarterback guru.
Yeah, Ryan Day understands the game of football.
Yes. Yeah, and Will was out at the Manning Academy. There's a lot of, the feedback I got is that he participated in one drill. He was 1 for 4, and he looked really shaky. Okay, but people are going to spin that as me, hating on Will. Whatever, I don't care. I'm just sharing information.
Yep.
Devin and Lincoln have gone out to California to work with the Palmer brothers. I know Devin went out there again during this July dead period.
I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to say it. I wasn't sure if we were allowed to publicly share that.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's out there. It's
Okay.
on. I mean, the Palmer brothers are going and posting anyways.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's been videos out there of both Air and Julian, you know, working on some stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Julian's videos are, you know, I found it interesting that they're always off schedule stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like crazy, you know, throws to the opposite way.
Well,
50 yards down the field.
the one from yesterday was like a huge bomb, though. It was like 60 yards in the air or something.
Yeah, but he
had to put everything into it.
He had to put well, yeah, I mean, which you do on a 60-yard pass.
Not Cardale. Cardale could do it flat-footed.
Yeah.
I saw him do it at the spring game a few years ago.
I know. It was 72 yards, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but he was rolling to his left and then throwing back right. You know, that, you know, Air was doing some movement. He was doing more, I think, realistic pocket type stuff, more things that you'll see on a regular basis in the pocket. I'm still really, really concerned about Air's throwing motion. It's very
long.
It's not only long, but it's low. The ball comes out low.
He's 3/4. You know who it reminds me of? You're gonna laugh. Reminds me of Bernie Kosar. That 3/4 delivery.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it could be a left-handed version of Bernie. That's interesting. Well, I mean, we hope he has Bernie's success.
Yeah, man, that would be great.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all the quarterbacks have been putting in work. I'm really interested to get up to those first 4 practices. I think I might still do that. I've bought my tickets. I have the ability to get a refund. I've had some stuff happen recently that might prevent me from being able to get up there that week. But, you know, I want to see how they're rolled out. I want to see who goes first, second, third, you know, who's productive in the red zone drills and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to get at least one other person to join me on each day.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys, I will be on vacation that week in that state up north. You know, at family camp with my family, and so I'll be.
I can
already out of pocket.
I can already see if what I see favors one guy over the other. I'm going to get ridiculed for it. So I want somebody else there to be my
sounding board
validation.
Yeah, fully understand. So the last little nugget on our board of things to talk about today, class of 2025. I'm genuinely curious. I'm flip-flopping on this. Do you think, now this is, and I'm going to caveat this, I think we can end up with the number 1 class if we land David Sanders. Now, do you think that Ohio State ends up with the number 1 recruiting class in 2025? I'm just curious. Like, I don't really care, number 1, number 2. It's a nice bragging point, but thoughts?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say the loss of Brew would hurt us, and the loss of McNutt, even though most people aren't assuming he's going to be in the class when they do projections, wouldn't help us. But yeah, I mean, based on the guys that I think we're going to get, like, I think we're going to get Sanders. I think we're going to flip Autry. I think we're going to get Pettijohn. And then that receiver thing could make or break it. I mean, Alabama's on a run right now.
They are, man.
DeBoer has not missed a beat.
No.
He's really piled up. I think he's got like 5 5-stars on the offensive line, something stupid like that.
Do you remember back in the 90s when there were only like 5 to 7 5-stars per class?
Yeah.
You know, and now like there's 100. It's beyond to say there's 5.
Yeah, I mean the most, I don't know if it's Rivals or On 3, but one of them have 32 5-stars because there's 32 picks in the NFL draft, in the first round of the NFL draft. I meant like to have 5 5-stars on your offensive line. Like when growing up in the 90s, man, like that. That wouldn't have happened because there was like 7 of them per class if you're lucky. So but so what's the question? Is it important for us to get the number 1 class?
No, just do you think we can? I mean, it would be. I don't know this.
I mean, we have it right now. We have the highest cumulative score. We have the highest per you know, per recruit rating.
Yeah.
We're neck and neck there with Oregon, but
Yeah, by
Oregon's got
one
like
100th of a point.
yeah, but they've got like 9 less commits than us right now, and they're
Mhm.
going to have to fill in a lot.
Yeah, that'll
with 3 and
bring their
4
average
stars.
down. Yeah.
But yeah, do I think we can get it? Yes, I think the biggest threats to it are Alabama and Georgia.
Mm.
Do I want it? Yes. I want it. I love the message. I love the perception. I love everything about finishing with the number 1 recruiting class.
Cool. I agree with you. I think it's a great bragging point. I think if you wanted me to be honest, I think the reason I want the number 1 recruiting class is to say, look, our arch rival just won a national championship, and we pulled the number 1 recruiting class directly following. And that would tell me we landed David Sanders, probably either McCutcheon or DeCorian Moore, and Trey McNutt. Like that, like to have the number 1 class, those chips have to fall. And so that those 2 things are 2 like really good things for me, because that tells me we got the guys we wanted and we stuffed Michigan in a locker again.
Yeah. I can't remember. Have we talked about the fact that Michigan is having the worst historical bump from winning an alleged national championship ever?
Well, you and I discussed maybe talking about it, even especially the day that the NOA comes out.
Yeah. I mean, we've brought that up before.
Yeah,
right?
we brought it up. Yeah, they just haven't had the kind of
Once
success. Yeah, and I think that
7 or 8 times.
Yeah, and I think there's even Michigan faithful now that are talking about like, why are we not doing better? And they're booming crystal balls and then not getting the kid. And
yeah, in essence of being fair, their recruiting has picked up.
It has. Yeah,
they've had some nice additions to their class
for now.
They've jumped into the top 15. I think they're at 15.
Yeah.
It's still the most horrendous bump I've ever seen from a national championship in my life.
Yeah, can't sign a letter of intent until.
I just wonder why. Like, yeah. I wonder what these kids. Wonder why these kids wouldn't be interested.
Those decommits gonna hit hard.
Yeah,
they're gonna hit hard because the national signing day is not until middle of December, folks, and the whole season's got to get played.
First week of December now.
First week of December. Most of your season's got to get played, and somewhere along the line after the most recent Hamburglar rule that came out, there's gonna be some more information and details out at some point about the horseman. So Connor Stallions.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's our show for today. Dan and I were going to try to squeeze in our projections for the Wisconsin schedule. We ran out of time, but I promise we're going to do the schedules. We got a lot of time between now and August 31st. So hang in there if you were jumping on for that one. But thank you guys for listening as always, and we appreciate you guys. Please stay safe out there, especially around 4th of July. Don't blow your hands off. Alcohol and fireworks don't mix. I've seen a lot of bad stuff in my time. So you guys stay safe. Don't do anything silly. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.